He'll tell you who the devil is. The white man is so devilish. Ask Hammurabi, he'll tell you who the devil is. I ain't have to die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. Then we seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil. I ain't have to die to meet the devil. I ain't have to die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. Then we seen the rise of the devil. I pray for the demise of the devil. Lord knows I despise every devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil and said, I pray to die every devil.
This for my people, this for my people, yeah, this for my people, this for my people, this for my people, yeah, this for my people. Fuck the white man, 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 fuck the white man. Painted by the Spanish, did a whole lot of damage. Shit was outlandish, banks got branded. Split up all the families, then shipped across the Atlantic. So many died from the famine. Threw the dead bodies overboard, sharks ate them like salmon. I know you can't stand it, I spit the truth, goddammit. Big business got managed, did you double back? Came to pick up all the blacks. Real speed up our back, we never got to relax. Pretend to set us free, but then you double back without a crack. The type of games that you play, hey, to keep it real, I ain't going for it. Beat a couple court cases, had a warrant for it. Told my mama if I ever did time, I'ma raise up the whole yard. Had my lawyer like, oh Lord, district attorney added more charges. No problem, I ain't tripping, thumbing through the scriptures. Muhammad said the Lord with your boy, that's a small issue. Bounce back out the rebound, UPK got the heat now. They done let me off the leash now, teaching in the streets now. I'm part of Lost Tribe South, but it started in the East now. Look, this for my people, this for my people, yeah, this for my people, this for my people, this for my people, yeah, this for my people. Fuck the white man, 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 fuck for my people, this for my people, yeah, this for my people, this for my people, this for my people, yeah, this for my people. Fuck the white man, 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 fuck.
Any man give his life for Yahweh Shai Mashiach in Christ and fall up under that UPK banner. It's my brother and my blood, and I will die and kill for him if necessary. It's all about that warfare, boy. Back up, it's all about that warfare, boy. Take breath.
Good. Alright, what's going on, B-More? What's going on, Israel? History class, clap it up. We gonna get it in. There's a lot going on in the world today, but there's a lot of crap that was going on yesterday too, man. So we gonna try to cover it all real quick in this class, man. But I had a question that somebody asked me. I don't know if they watching or not, but somebody asked me about Hamilcar Barker. All right, Hamilcar Barker was a famous individual, and this individual, I mean, these people at this time, God, I lost my train of thought. Salaki. All right, these people at this time were at war with Rome. It was called the Second Punic Wars. And Hamilcar Barker had risen to prominence to be the king at this time. All right. And he was the king of a nation called Carthage. Carthage at this time was on the other side of the Mediterranean, pretty much, and Rome was controlling the Cormorants on the other side. So, of course, both had powerful navies, so they were pretty much at war. What Hamilcar Barker is known for is traversing the Alps on elephant back. And when he did that, he just popped up and showed up in Rome. Rome was unprepared for the type of military attacks that Hamilcar Barker was bringing to the table. And he was able to replenish his forces with the Gallic tribes that were there. A lot of the tribes he picked up when he came through the Alps. There were a lot of tribes that were, of course, a little bit upset with Rome because of the barbarous tactics of Rome, of course. So Hamilcar was his brother. Hestable was his brother. I haven't read up on this in a while, forgive me. I'm a little slow with it. All right. Hannibal was able to destroy Roman my train of thought is horrible in this class. He was able to destroy a lot of Roman armies coming through Rome. And what he decided to do as a tactic was kind of a scorch and burn. He went through the countryside of Italy, just destroying a lot of villas and a lot of different things, taking food, taking farmland, and then burning it as he went, and moved across the land, freed slaves that were in Italy, and the tactics were very good. He never stood in one place to be attacked by a frontal Roman army, because the Romans were strong. They had that pseudo where they would put their shields together. It was impenetrable. They were strong. The Romans had technology, and Hannibal was, of course, in a foreign land where he had to continually, resource his own army, get his own resources to be in that land. But anyway, to make a long story short, he was able to go through Rome and made a spectacular name for himself. He came down to destroying Rome. I hear it was in less than a half an hour. If he just had marched his army through to Rome, he would have been good, because all the armies of Rome were destroyed at this time. All he had was a thin contingent that was, controlling the city. Other armies were on their way, but he could have went in there and took Rome, but he wanted to rest his men at the time. He's most famously known for traversing elephants through the Alps. They didn't have much experience with elephants then, so he was able to take his elephants and run them through Roman armies pretty effectively. And he did that for years, until, of course, he wasn't able to win the war because he didn't strike Rome at the right time. And he asked for help for his brother. His brother Hestable came over, but the Romans were on to it. They surrounded his brother, took his brother's head, threw his brother's head, to him. So this is when the war started to go the other way. And the Romans eventually, instead of constantly fighting Hannibal, they went to Carthage and got the whole Roman army, went to Carthage and destroyed Carthage. So Hannibal had to come, of course, come home to defend Carthage, and that's where they, got him at. And years after that, he became a general on the sea. He never had the success he had in Italy at that time, but he became a big name and a big hero. All right, but this is what the person wanted to know: are we a part of Hannibal Barca? All right, no. Was Hannibal Barca a black man? Not in the not in the sense of that word. The word black means more than just a chocolate face and curly hair. All right? It's a bloodline, a nationality. Barca at that time would have been of the people that were a little further east than Israel. The people that were in the Bible as Tyre and Zidon. Africa. Tyre and Zidon. All right, get me Joel 3 and 4. Go to the next slide. I forgot to tell you. That's Joel 3 and 4. Make sure you go through the next slide. I've been meaning to tell you to do that. Come. That's Hannibal. That's Hannibal Barca. And I believe he's being played by a British black man. But in actual life, he was an indigenous African. All right? And known as the Carthaginians, Second Punic Wars. All right? You can go ahead if you got that scripture.
Joel chapter 3, verse 4. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre?
This is the Lord talking. The Lord is saying, you got a goddamn thing to do with me, Tyre. It may look like my people, but you're not my people. You can read on.
And Zidon.
And Zidon. Read on.
And all the coast of Palestine.
All the coast of Palestine. This is what he's saying. All the people round about, all these people round about Israel are the people we not even supposed to be dealing with, going into their culture, going into their gods. No, he was not a black man or a part of us. It had nothing to do with us. He did some miraculous things. You know, he was very courageous, lost in the end, because Carthage became white. It was completely whitewashed. You know, at the end, they was, Hannibal Barca is a white man. Every man that plays him, that was the first movie I ever seen where they had a black, a dark-skinned man playing Hannibal Barca. All right, you can go to the next slide. And you can read on after you do that.
Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, I will return your recompense upon your own head.
We're talking about the crimes of these Africans, of these people round about. He's talking about the crimes that they committed upon us and the hurt and pain that they brung down upon us. He's talking about, will you recompense me? Will you recompense my people for what you've done to my people? Everybody with dark skin and woolly hair is not us, man. It's people living in the Ottoman Islands with dark skin and woolly hair. They're not us. It's people living in Asia that have been there on an island split from the Indians, the East Indians, for thousands upon thousands of years, and they're dark skin, chocolate skin, woolly hair, with, look close to in so-called African American, but they have nothing to do with us. Nothing. All right, Papua New Guinea. They look close to African Americans, but they ain't got nothing to do with us, and they're not Africans. They look like Africans. All right? Because they took some of us from Africa and brought us here, we were there for for trying to get away from the hordes of Rome, because they were destroying everything on every continent. There was no holds barred. They had no laws against destroying, raping, and pillaging every goddamn thing. They act like it was a civilization, but it wasn't. It was organized crime. And they went across every nation dealing in this organized crime. You can go to the next. And this is Hannibal Barca, and what he was doing in Italy was absolutely. It was good what he did. But see, this is the thing. Every time we hear about somebody with dark skin or could possibly be dark skinned, we want to merge ourselves with them. Why? Because we don't know who we are. We don't understand who we are. So anybody with any type of reputation or anything in history, just like the Egyptians invented everything. So we have to be the Egyptians. So we have to be the Egyptians. So when they said they found I believe it was 5,000-year-old brick structure in Rwanda. We were Rwandans. We had to be the Rwandans because we had to build that structure back. No, all of these Africans don't have anything to do with the so-called African American today. You understand? You had something?
Oh, no, I was about to say, just like you said, anytime we hear about anybody with dark skin and woolly hair doing any kind of accomplishment, we always try to associate ourselves.
It's an innate reaction of I have to create a culture for myself because we just don't understand who we are. Well, we've proven who we are in this Bible by scripture, by prophecy, and damn sure by association of where the people were at the time. White people are not the Jews of antiquity. It's impossible for them to be. And if you go through the Bible of them being slaves in Egypt, there were never any white slaves in Egypt. It's preposterous. But that culture has already been taken. So we will let somebody steal and take what was ours just because it don't feel particularly right to us, because those people were slaughtered by white people at one point. You understand? The comparison is not even to be compared being slaughtered for, centuries, but, whatever. So you see what coins up there of Hannibal and of course an elephant on the back of the coin to commemorate his crossing the Alps with the elephants and all of that. And I'm not going to keep going on African culture. Hamilcar Barker is an African. That is their culture. That is their achievements. Good for them. We can read the difference between a black man and an African here. You can read what's on the screen, brother.
Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negro.
All right, the progenitor of the dark nation. There are other people most people on the earth are of the dark nations. The dark nations have the greatest amount of diversity in genetics on the earth. All right? But the Lord split the races and he split the nations. Just because you look a certain way does not make you a part of that race or a part of that nation. All right? We suffer in America from something that the white man created called colorism. And it's almost impossible for us to get past it because we want to be associated with everybody and anybody who has done something that we believe is great. Because we don't know that our achievements far outweigh them all. That we are the people of this Bible. That's why. That's why we want Hamilcar Barker to be a part of us. And Hannibal Barker and the Punic Wars and Carthage. No, ain't got nothing to do with us. All right, you can finish reading that.
But the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and the Canaanites.
All right, this is all talking about a bloodline, meaning that the people who came from Ham are of Tyre and Zidon. All right, they are out of that the Canaanite mob. All right, and they lived all around us. These Carthaginians happen to live further east that we call biblically Tyre and Zidon. That's all. Just the people that wasn't us that were dark skinned with woolly hair. They do not traverse our bloodline. They are not a part of our people. I spent enough time on that. Let's move on, brother.
The history of propaganda. The fact that wars give rise to intensive propaganda campaigns has made many persons suppose that propaganda is something new and modern.
Well, look, propaganda is nothing new. Let me explain to you about propaganda right now, man. Right now in Texas, they are changing laws so that in public schools, they do not have to teach about slavery. They do not have to teach that being a Ku Klux Klan member, a KKK white supremacist, is immoral. They don't have to teach that. Right now, they are pushing through legislation not to talk about Martin Luther King and the civil rights struggles and dogs biting black women breast off and them shooting us with water cannons and destroying and killing us. All of that they want to take out of public school so they can eliminate white guilt. All right? Don't give a damn about what black people had to go through, but they want to eliminate white guilt. That's propaganda. Right. To change history and to push you towards a certain point of view. They don't want to cultivate white guilt in the earth. So by not cultivating white guilt, they're changing history to cultivate white barbarism so that it happens again. The lessons are not lost on us. When you forget your history, what? It happens again. It's never been stopped happening. But this is propaganda that you can see in action in the modern day world. All right? This is not new. Right now, there is a people calling themselves Jews. They're calling themselves Jews. If you ask them, they don't know what tribe they're from. They're just calling themselves Jews. They have pasty white skin. Their last place of origin that they could ever remember or go back in history to is Georgia, Russia, by the Caspian Sea. All right? They can't push their history past that because they never were in Israel. They converted. right? Their last known identity was Khazars. Khazars, the most violent and barbarous people along the Caspian Way at that time, man. And they were known for being converts. And when it came to the 1600s, they started saying that they were the real Jews. Why? Because you had iconoclasm. You had Christianity so popular, and they started repainting Christ to be something that he wasn't. Right. So these Jews, let me get on there and run on up on here in this. We the real Jews. We white. We the real Jews of the Bible. Christ is white. They painted over every single goddamn painting. You can look that up. And iconoclasm, you can read books on that. It's all out there, man. But this is propaganda. Losing wars has consequences. You lose yourself, your dignity. Especially losing wars to a nation of people so barbarous, so full of hatred and murder. It has consequences. We ought to serve our God. You can keep reading.
The word itself came into common use in this country as late as 1914, when World War I began. The truth is, however, that propaganda is not new and modern. Nobody would make this mistake, the mistake of assuming that it is new if, from early times, efforts to mobilize attitudes and opinions have actually been called propaganda. The battle for men's minds is as old as human history.
All right. The battles for men's minds is as old as human history. That's why I can't understand the chip situation with the mark of the beast. Like, they already control our thoughts. Like, we already believe that we're criminals and gangbangers. We believe that. And it's not so much that white people believe it. Every person on this earth has a complex history, a complex attitude, and have lived a complex life. Like, you can't break them down to such a carnal form as you're a criminal, you're a drug dealer, you're a pants-hanging, drug-slinging, gangbanger, hypersexual. You'll rape white women if you get the chance. These are all labels of propaganda that white people put on us that we tend to believe, even though the statistics don't say it. We believe it, and we've treated ourselves as such, and we've accommodated their evil for far too long, brother. Anything more on that? Well, I think we got the gist of that. Let's move on. You're talking about a Greek Colosseum. These are places of exercise that they opened up, that they would always open up to keep us distracted. When you look at the Colosseum, you would have seen the same thing you would have seen in the LA Stadium. Name a stadium in America. The Coliseum. That's what they, the Coliseum. That's what they are. You have black athletes performing at the height of their physical prowess, and you would have white people in the crowd being entertained. That's exactly what was going on in Rome. There are paintings to show this, but they show you the fake ones. Were there white people fighting as gladiators? Yeah. But the most prominent ones, these were black men. Can you imagine Michael Jordan instead of, running down a basketball court with some clown shorts on and some overly expensive priced tennis, dunking the ball? Imagine him lopping over people's heads and cutting them off. That's what was going on in the Coliseum, to distract us from warfare. To distract us from warfare. The strongest among us, the soldiers among us, were made to entertain white people as a monkey would entertain a crowd. But you tell a monkey, this is for honor. This is for honor. Fight and kill your own people. Fight and kill animals. This is for honor. Give me, matter of fact, go to the next slide. The first Maccabees, is that on the slide? Oh no, move forward. We're going to get that later. Now, where we at? You seeing what's in the Coliseum. And then a lot of times in that Coliseum, we would fight naked. But the propaganda that and the iconoclasm that they put out there in painting these gladiators as being white, it traverses and pushes the whole history to a different level, a different way of thinking, and not being what it is. Just like not teaching black history in public schools. It changes the narrative. Now let's get that first Maccabees. What is it? First Maccabees. Now give me 3 and 48.
First Maccabees chapter 3 verse 48. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
He opened up the book of the law, which is the Bible, man. And the heathens painted the likeness of their images. This is iconoclasm. This is what we're talking about here. You know, a lot of people will say, it don't matter if Christ was black or he was white. It matters what he did. No. If he was black, it changes the narrative altogether. Just that one simple fact. Because black people in America have been worshiping all white people because of that image. And why do black people fight so hard for Christ not to be black? Because if he did such wonderful things, such unselfish and courageous things, he can't possibly be one of us. He can't be. Because we, of course, believe the propaganda. We're spics and jigaboos and you understand? We could never be so glorious, so full of unselfishness, so full of courage. We can't be that. Christ can't possibly be that black man who's a deadbeat father, who leaves his children and don't want to take care of his kids, which is a complete utter lie. That is such a lie. I looked up the statistics on that. I'm going to bring that out. That's a complete, utter, disgusting lie that black men are deadbeat fathers. And you'll be surprised at some of the reasons why a black man cannot get to his child. It is certainly not because of a depraved heart. So the most of the pictures of gladiators you see is a white gladiators having courage and doing such and such. No, these were black people with athletic prowess, trying, of course, to impress a nation that could never help them or do anything for them like we do today. Until Septimius Severus, who was a gladiator who broke the chains of Rome for blacks. All right, let's move on, brother. And when you look at today's modern day brothers in the arena, could you have no doubt? Show me a heavyweight champion that's like Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey knocked everybody out. Like, they were trying to find a white hope so bad. They would get white men from Russia, from anywhere in the world. Jack just knocked them out. They was bad knuckles back then. Jack just, it's ridiculous. This is the same thing that Septimius Severus did. Same thing that Iron Mike Tyson did, man. But they had the propaganda to convince us that we can't work at this level. And they distracted us with their games instead of these brothers being warriors for their people. Like, I always like to go back to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali worked for black people. Right. And the white society at large never wanted that to happen again. They never wanted Muhammad Ali, or somebody like Muhammad Ali, who would not bow, who would not scrape, who would get up there and say exactly what it was. They didn't want the 60s again. They hated the 60s. That's why they villainized any type of black power. Black Panthers, they villainized all of those brothers at that time, when it was a very complex time. I'm going to go over that time too. All right, let's go ahead and move forward, brother.
Adam and Eve, Roman catacombs.
Mm-hmm. Adam and Eve in the Roman catacombs. So you know how propaganda works. A white couple is completely different from a black couple. You understand? So you know the story has to be interpreted completely and utterly different if that's a black woman that's rebelling against her black man. That's completely different. She's rebelling against him. But the propaganda tells you that, she's not rebelling. It's not her fault. God was mad at Adam, punished everybody because of Adam. That's not true. And the Bible says the transgression wasn't the man's, it was the woman's. But when it's a white woman, and that reputation around a white woman was interpreted completely and utterly different. That's why color matters, man. Give me matter of fact, give me Revelations 12 and 9. Let's get that real quick.
Revelations chapter 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan.
Look, that old serpent. Where that old serpent come from? That garden, right? That old serpent come from that garden with Adam and Eve. This is the problem. That it was not an animal. Well, it was an animal, but it was not a traditional animal as in a snake. All right? They said red dragon. So what's up with that? Is this Games of Thrones or something? They said red dragon. No, this was a man. Huh? Say again now? The great dragon. Yeah, the great dragon. So, was this some type of Games of Thrones thing? No, this was not an actual flying monster or a crawling on the stomach animal. This was a man with those attributes. At that time, he was a lion belly crawling snake that convinced a black woman to turn on her black man. And then this belly crawling snake became a great dragon known for his strength. He rains down fire on the earth like a Spitfire during World War II, like a centrifuge weapons, a bomb that drops out of a plane, breaks into 1,000 different bombs, and attacks everything that's on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Just raise your hand, bro. That distracts me. Just raise your hand and tell me. All right. You know what I'm saying? And all right, just move on to the next slide.
Oh, sure. I had a question. When he speaks of the great dragon in the Bible, that's talking about the strength of the oppressor.
Yeah. He's talking about his military, his bombs, his might. He had no power back then. He was just a deceiver and a liar. But now he has real power. He has carnal power to blast you into submission, and is what he's done. He was able to put us into a 4th century slavery, able to take our children, able to move and traverse the earth by destroying and inventing all kinds of weapons like ICBMs, or intercontinental nuclear missiles that could destroy anything or anybody that doesn't agree with him. So to have a megalomaniac in charge of such weaponry is truly dread, brother. It's truly dread, and that further proves to us that our fight is spiritual. It's with principalities. This is somebody that's been given the power to push a button and end life. And end life. This is truly the devil. This is the Antichrist. The Lord creates. This is a thing that builds and moves technology in order to destroy. Christ builds. Antichrist destroys. There's no question who the Antichrist is. Who would build such weapons as to destroy the very earth that they live on? Who does that? All right, we move on.
Serpent whispering to Eve.
Serpent whispering to Eve, man. This is that thing that changed the course of mankind. That got that woman to go against her man. It's the same thing today. That gets your woman to destroy your baby in her stomach without even talking to you. She has the legal authority to destroy your baby not only absent your consent, she don't even have to tell you. How evil is that? But she can have a baby absent your knowledge and get you to pay child support. You just get something in the mail one day. I ain't even know you was pregnant. Let's move on, bro. That's the serpent. That's the serpent that they're talking about. What does he want? Control of that woman to destroy, to manipulate that black family. Because when you can break up that black family, you now have access to the children, generation after generation. You now can steal whatever they have. You now can push the direction of their lives with a word. The police kill young black men. Why? Because of propaganda, of course. What are you in their minds? What is a stereotype? Get a definition of stereotype for me. What is a stereotype? Get a definition. Go ahead, my brother.
Stereotype is basically a painted image of a person that a person or people want you to
Is that the actual definition?
Oh, no.
Yeah, look it up for me. And Webster's Dictionary will just bring it up online. You will. Just type in stereotype. Go ahead. You got it.
Stereotype, a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person.
Good night. Read it again. Read it again.
Stereotype, a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing.
So widely felt amongst a lot of people, but oversimplified. All right? So they can take a complex person who has personality, history, growth, failure, successes, take them, break them down to a deadbeat father. Break them down to a criminal, a trespasser, a drug addict, a drug dealer, something dark, something criminal. Very simplified. Meaning, nobody has to know anything about your history. Nobody has to know anything about your personality. You have already been simplified into this thing. All right? So now, when you, as a stereotype person, and Commanding General Yohana went through this on his show very slowly, and I said, God damn, he is so right. When you, as a simplified entity, doesn't matter what type of black man you are. See, some of us believe that moving out of the black community makes us something different from them Negroes. Them Negroes don't want nothing. That's them. Well, let me give it to you straight. You're the only person that can see other black people as being different from you. White people don't think that you're different from them. They don't. As much as you try to prove it, those tragedies are going to catch up to you. Because it's spiritual. It's spiritual. And because you're stereotyped. And the only way to fight against those stereotypes is to prove them wrong. As a people, can't do it as an individual. Because they always see you as a gangbanger, a criminal. If you're walking past their yard, just shortly a week or two ago, a black child riding his bike and came across a Chinese man's drive-through. The Chinese man shot him in the arm. Now, how absolutely horrifying would that be for a white child to get shot by a Chinese man who was the kids were in their parkway on a bike. I would never think to shoot a child, 6 years old, 7 years old, a child was 6 years old. I would never think to harm a child because they were riding in my driveway. But this Asian person stereotyped and said he was afraid. He was afraid of these black children. They were causing a ruckus, so he shot them. And he got out on a $10,000 bail. Why? Because when he went to his white ally, they believed his stereotype. Give me a time check. It is 8 o'clock. All right. Give me, we can move on, brother.
Black Israel. Behold, the black people who wrote the Bible. From the British Museum in London, the afro-haired men shown above are the ancient Israelites, known as the Hebrews. The image you are looking at is by the Assyrians, who destroyed Israel 3,000 years ago.
All right, so now, we're not looking at white people. White people did not create or make this image. All right? They did not create this image. It was not black people who created this image. These are people that had the children of Israel in slavery thousands of years before Rome. Years before Rome. And they created a picture of a short, curly-haired people with a nostril inflamed nose and thick lips. Beard, short beard, kind of with the brother Mathum and the trooper are wearing today. I didn't cut down my beard. You know what I'm saying? Cut it down a little bit. But this is what the brothers look like, and the brothers, and it's on the screen. These could not even be mistaken for the so-called Jewish person that's in Israel today. You couldn't even mistake these pictures for them. But this is the power of propaganda, so powerful and so laid so deeply within us that still, off of evidence like this, we can't identify with being the children of Israel when every scripture in the Bible screams at us that we actually are. Because if those so-called white Jews actually have to deal with credible information like this being put in front of them, no white Jew could sit there and say, yeah, that looks like white people. These are obviously black people with cornrows in their heads, man. All right, you finish reading that? All right, let's move on. Let's move on, bro.
St. George icon before and after Dragon Slayer.
St. George the Dragon Slayer. St. George the Dragon Slayer was a courageous brother up in Russia that killed some type of lizard, giant lizard animal. They say dragon. It could have been an entire army, but this was a strong brother. This was a brother that was in charge of his province. He was a saint, and at that time, only black men who were Israelites could be saints. This was a lineage. What were these black people doing up in Russia? Like we spoke about the gladiators. Remember the gladiator Septimius Severus we talked about? He was able to break the chains of Rome. So a lot of our people became royalty. All right, a lot of our people became kings from Russia all through England, like where you get King James, who was the king of Scotland and England. And look how the propaganda came after iconoclasm. They started lightening the skin of St. George the Dragon Slayer until he eventually just became a white man. How could black people be in Russia? How did they get in? Where they coming in Russia? Black people were all over Russia, brother. All over Russia. Russia did the same thing, not to the same extent, but Russia still finds paintings today of icons and of black people. They're still finding them today in old houses, in basements and stuff like that, and restoring them. But when they restore them as white. Some of them don't. You can see some pictures of Putin in front of very old paintings on churches and things of that nature that was so expensive and are so valuable at this time that they don't change the color of the actual paintings, and some of them are done in metalwork. So you can see the color and the orientation of the nose and the lips that tells you that these people are black people. All right, let's move on.
Everyone knows except God's children. You know that Egyptians are black, but what you don't know is God's children are black. They are not the same people.
Why won't we know that there were no white slaves in Egypt? So why won't white people give up on that garbage and that nonsense of there being white slaves in Egypt, and these somehow these people that ended up in Poland under the arm of Hitler? Well, let me tell you why. It's very, very simple. If they give up that lie about there was, no white slaves in Egypt, then they can't possibly be the children of Israel.
Right.
Because in order for these pale-skinned people to be the true children of Israel, there has to be a history of them being in Egypt 400 years. There has to be one picture, one mummy, one something of them being in that place and being the true Jews of iniquity. Like they actually have pictures of the migration of Shemites from Israel into Egypt many times, and none of them are white people. Like they would have to explain that. Like well, I've heard some of them say, well, we were darker back then. It makes no sense. It's idiotic. You understand? Instead of just telling the truth, we came after we were converts. Let's find out who the real true children of Israel are. Very easy to find out. But they're not it.
Exactly.
But of course, propaganda, which is so deep and dredged down so much in our psyche that we can't even begin to understand who we are. But this is not surprising. This warfare is spiritual and our inheritance was taken from us. It was taken via curse, via being cursed for what we've done to the Most High. Nobody thinks about the hurt and the pain that we caused the Most High. We're supposed to be his portion, but we don't praise him. It's amazing how much black people love God, but in complete and utter ignorance. Right. Talking in tongues. I'm a tiny, I'm a tiny. I'm at the blood. Right. Talking in witchcraft. And not embracing the true doctrine of Christ, man. It's amazing. But in instilling and indoctrinating the doctrine of the devil in our children and in our ways. And we wonder why we suffer so. Hey, you mind, truth? It's a lot. Where we at? We can move on, bro. And it's so ridiculous, man, how they just throw us in a Shark Tank, man, and we never even bother to look at the types of things that they're doing to us, even in modern day society, man. I mean, they're doing this not only in Texas are they trying to push their propaganda, but everywhere, man. They're saying, you know, white people not responsible for nothing. That as a black person, you need to strap up your bootstraps and go out there and do something, you know, root hog or die. That's the same thing they told us after slavery. They wouldn't give us a damn thing for 300 years. 300 years of labor that was stolen from black people. They said root hog or die. You know what that means? If a hog can't find no food, he dig up the roots. Right. That's what we were supposed to do. Go out there and root hog or die, man. And we started building cities all over America. They couldn't take it. They murdered us. They burned all our cities, castrated the people who were there that had any type of business prowess. And then they hid the crime scenes by burying them under interstates and flooding them, making ponds out of them. Putting anything on top of them to hide the crime scene simply because they wanted so bad to enjoy their paradise that they wanted to hide those crimes. You can't even find out about these crimes unless you go digging hard for it, man. The type of barbarism is just completely and utterly unreal. All right, thank you, sir. Good. Thank you. Completely and utterly unreal, man. Thousands of people, look up the Red Summer. Thousands upon thousands of black people hung on poles, man. Throughout the entire summer, this wasn't a red day, it was an entire summer. When ordinary white people besieged black cities, can't blame it on the police. You can't blame it on the government. Ordinary white citizens besieged black cities and murdered and murdered and murdered until their hearts was content. Let's move on, bro. like Moses, just like all of them, they were playing it over. But you can look at your brothers. These photos, these depictions that were done thousands of years before their iconoclasm, before they started painting over them and making them white. The problem that they had, it was just too many. It was just too many icons that showed who the people of God actually are. The Bible itself survives. It talks about the color of our skin, the texture of our hair, the content of our character, the way we are, the way we move. It talked about house Negroes like Judas. Talked about field Negroes like Christ. All right. All right. So you're looking at Moses right there, right? You know, everybody think that Moses was a white man. Moses was a black man. Hardcore to the end. And making him a black man, understanding that he is a black man, is something that can destroy the propaganda that's in our minds. We have to be ready to concede to the fact that these people may have lied to us. There's a strong possibility, man. I mean, Michael Jackson died, his body wasn't even cold, and they made him to be a white man in the movies, bro.
Right.
There is a strong possibility leading to the fact that these people could have lied about our nationality. We got to get that out of our minds. Move on, brother.
This fresco of Christ among the apostles is in an arcosolium of the crypt of and Platus in the catacombs of Saint Domitilla in Rome.
Yeah, these are all in the catacombs of Rome. So in the catacombs of Rome is a place where a lot of Israelites would have been buried. Why? Because a lot of Israelites were converted over to Romans. Judea was a province of Rome at the time. So there were a lot of black men that were Roman citizens, like Cornelius. Everybody talks about Cornelius, like Paul.
Right.
Paul was a Roman. He was a black man, but he was a Roman by nationality. Because why? Because before that, if you go into the Apocrypha, where a man had to be called by the place he was born at, not by what he was. So the white man wanted to make us be called a Greek or a Roman after where we were born instead of what we actually were.
Right.
That's why the Lord had to explain about the Greek woman, a Syrophoenician, by nation, because he had to further explain that this was a white woman. This was not a Hellenistic Greek who was a black woman but had Greek citizenship.
Right.
Just like you and I are American citizens, but black. If you say an American, you think of a white man. That's why you have the terms African American. So you can differentiate a little bit. African American, this, that, and the third. But if you say an American, that's a white man. Everybody knows that white people are actually Americans. It's a nationality that they made for themselves when they left Britain, and all the white tribes on the continent of Europe were able to come together and call themselves Americans after an ideology of seeking property and happiness and being so-called free. This was for white people. So you would think every man is created equal. This is talking about white people. The Constitution was created for white people that came from Europe and had a desire to come together in a one ideology. Had nothing to do with black people, so you would think when they say American, everybody knows that means a white person, unless you say African American. So us being African American puts us as part of a nation. It's the same way Cornelius was a Roman. He served in the army of Rome, in the legion of Rome, but he was a black man. All right, let's move on, brother.
Fresco from the Via Latina Catacomb, Rome. Painted about 320 AD, Abraham raises his sword to slay his son Isaac.
Abraham and Isaac were black. Doesn't that change the entire narrative there? This was a black man that loved his child like only a black man could, who was about to go through a tragedy that every black man goes through. You are about to lose your child, your baby boy. And in this case, your father, who you loved, is telling you to destroy that boy. And because of your love for that boy, you so twisted and conflicted. But you have to obey your God. Can you imagine the love that a black man has for his son, to have to sacrifice him for the love of his God? That's almost unbearable, brother. But brother Abraham was strong enough, and the Lord saw that strength and that courage in him. He sees it. When you don't do what that woman say and she wants to call the police on you and say you dangerous so she can take that boy, and you never see that black boy again. And the hurt and pain that it causes a black man is irreparable. But these are things we have to live with. These are things we have to go through in this life, man. It's harmful and it's hurtful. But this is something that only black men can do. Nobody else could have stood and could withstand this amount of stress and this kind of slavery and this type of hardship that this society puts on black men. You talk about crime. It's so much crime. Why the hell wouldn't it be crime? You gotta have opportunity to deal with crime. But it's always the stick. It's always locking every goddamn body up. Taking black children from their black fathers. In order to take the house of a strong black man, you got to bind that black man. How you bind him? You bind him with child support. You bind him with aggressive policing. All right, let's move on, bro. My phone just died. God. say dirty. Dang it. All right, you're gonna have to tell me what's on the screen. Go ahead.
You got the whitewashed painting of supposedly God in heaven. But on the white side, it's butt naked. On the black side, you got clothes with black angels.
All right, I'm gonna get you to explain that. Just say it a little louder. Tell us the difference between
You
the
got the
paintings.
two paintings are supposed to be the Most High. You got the one painting of the whitewashed picture with him naked, with white baby angels. You understand? And he's touching the hand of another man in a homosexual fashion.
All right. So these two pictures, how is it different? What message do they convey? And why is it is different from the black and the white painting? What type of propaganda is being put off with seeing God as being white as opposed to the black one that you see there? What's the difference in the message?
The difference in the message to me is the whitewashed pictures like it's giving off a homosexual vibe. Where you got the black pictures giving off the strong vibe. It's got the black angels, they got clothes on, you see the brother laying on the ground and having an image with you. Having an image of the Most High in heaven, you know?
Come.
And you got babies, a naked man, touching another man, you know? It gives the whole innuendo of a sexual fantasy, a homosexual fantasy.
Come. So those pictures, the culture of whites is basically pornography. It is a place where you can be comfortable with naked babies around you, and then you have the black artistry which pervades strength, independence, manhood. You understand? It's a very big difference between black culture and white culture. So as to when you say it doesn't matter, it matters much more than you would ever understand and know, black man. Let's get let's get my scripture I always break down for propaganda. Give me Ephesians 2:2. The water. Ephesians 2, verse 2.
Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2. Wherein time past ye walk according to the course of this world.
Ye walk according to the course of this world. Whenever we walk according to the course of this world, we're doing what the culture of America wants us to do. When we're pulling down our pants and letting them sag, and wearing a little gay tight jeans around our ankles, which are called chick jeans. If you a little older, you know that back in the day, women had a certain jeans called chick jeans, and they were tight all the way down to the calves, and down to the ankles, and they could show off they plump calves, and they made it so tight, and they show off they butts, and they little apple shape. You know what I'm saying? And they came out with the apple bottom jeans and all of that type of thing. And look, man, this was designed, culture was designed for a homosexual dispensation And this is why, when you become a homosexual, you are not able to sustain a black household, which means the number of children you produce go down. The protection that you're able to provide your family severely lacks. All right? It's not much of a chance of a black man that's choosing a homosexual lifestyle to be able to maintain the glory of a black household. You all right, sir? No sweat. To maintain the glory of a black household, that means to teach your woman, to teach your children, to be able to traverse this life, man, because it can be very difficult at times, man. Right. This is why they want us to be homosexual. And you got to understand, a lot of us are going to prison. So that locks us out of being a successful, profitable husband and father.
Right.
We got more than 8% of us that are in jail for crimes we never even committed. And then we got another 66% that are in jail doing 15% longer sentences than white people who went to jail for the same exact crime. So our lives are being made into hell in this place, man. Let's not choose to be a part of the culture of America, because it's destroying us on a level that we don't even understand. Our young boys have become just like women that are unable to control themselves. Like, I've seen black women that I've had conversations with, but they're unable to control themselves long enough to get the answer that they need. The answer that they need is most likely time the answer that they want, but their mouth just keep going and their emotions so far out of control that they can't even receive the blessing. To see young men like that is extremely disturbing, man. That cannot control themselves in the slightest bit. In the mindset of everybody's trying to disrespect me. Everybody's trying to hurt me. F this, screw that. I don't have a problem with hurting the next black man. I've met brothers who have made a commitment not to ever hurt black people. And that's serious, man. And that's a commitment to God, not to ever hurt black people, man. And I'm not saying anybody's going out trying to hurt anybody else. I'm saying that there are black men in this earth that have made a commitment to understanding of a black man. That's dope. That's being a man. Right. That's controlling your emotions. That's controlling who you love. That's fire. Giving in to every raw, filthy, base emotion you got, that's weak. It makes you a mark, susceptible to being a little bee. You understand? It's nothing hard. It's nothing strong about it. Wanting to get high every 5 seconds, wanting to smoke dope every 2 seconds, wanting to pull out a gun every 3 seconds. Move on, bro.
According to the prince of the power of the air.
Is that it?
the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience.
Hey, look, the prince of the power in of the air is the devil. That's the people that you go to work for every day. These are the people that influences us to act in a certain way in order to pass. What do I mean by pass? In order to work at their companies and prosper in their ways. Being less manly. Talking in a feminine voice. Good morning! How are you? Yeah! As a black man, we don't always feel that way. We don't always want to communicate in that way. But how would it feel every day to be pushed to act like this? To make it easier, you become this. It becomes feminine. It becomes weak, wanting to give in, wanting to let them take control. All right, where we at now, brother?
Ephesians 2 and 2.
That's it on that. All right, go ahead and move with the presentation, please.
Right, ministry of propaganda.
Right, so the Third Reich, the Germans had a minister of propaganda, meaning they had a person that was able to lie effectively, that was able to come up with informative lies that push the narrative in a certain direction. Remember the prince of the power of the air. I'm a computer analyst. I understand why Amazon collects such and so much personal data. This is to make you buy what they want to buy and push you in a certain political direction. Wait a minute, what does that mean? To push you in a direction to think the way they want you to think, brother. They don't have to put a microchip in your head to make you do what they want you to do. If they want you to buy something, they send you an ad on your cell phone. You know that cell phone that you can't even sit on a toilet without, that got that chip in it, that monitors wherever the hell you at. You know that cell phone. That cell phone that got you locked in, that you look at your little gay videos on, that you look at your little porno on, you know that cell phone. That when you lose it, you panic. You know, that joint right there. You know, the chip, dog. Come on, man. That's in your right hand. Yeah, right? Your strong hand. Come on, man, I'm out. What time is it? I'm gonna bring it on over to you. I'm gonna leave up the joints for you, man. What slide we on? I think it was. Yeah, that Joseph Goebbels. That was his name. Joseph Goebbels was the minister of propaganda, and his motto was, if you tell the people something over and over and over again, no matter how big the lie, their minds will be forced to accept it. That is the propaganda that white America brought to us. That's the mark of the beast. And with that, I'm gonna turn the class over to Officer Mathum. We're gonna get it closed out and get it on in. The water, Israel Shalom.
Clap it up. Excellent class. I always enjoy when Officer Kawan Palak be talking about that propaganda, because it's what we go through today. You understand what I'm saying? And most of us are caught up in America's propaganda. We all believe that we are Americans when we're not. You understand? We are the true Jews of the Bible. But because of the propaganda of the United States, Central America, and all of these other countries, we don't know who we are. We believe we are African American. We believe we Muslim. We believe we Christians. Everything but what the Most High created and intended us to be. You understand? That's why I love when he does that propaganda class, because it brings everything back to my memory. But let's get to the security announcement. Security announcements. We are the Isupkbmore out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a particular brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry, tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers 18 and 21, Malachi 3, 8 to 10 is pronounced Ma'ashara, means 10th in the Hebrew. Slakia. Means 10th. It means 10th in the Hebrew, and it's pronounced Ma'ashara. A 10th of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund, a free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give, up and coming holy convocation, remind Akim and Aquathium. Check on social media such as isupk.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and material. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, shirt, pants, headband, or scarf. And with that, we're going to give one courtesy salute to the teacher, men of Israel, a Majum Shabbat, a Majum Barak, Yahaba Shini Habashah Barakatah. That's your time. Class dismissed. Like a sideshow, and the dope before I throw. Now I'm setting fire, the rhythm man blues for this Picasso.